Welcome guys to my channel. If you're already subscribing, welcome back. If you've already seen my covers, thank you so much for sticking around. I wanted to change this channel up a little bit to not just be covers and playing other people's songs, but to educate and to share a passion for the video side of music as well. So I'm going to be sharing tutorials on what to use for your videos, how to edit your videos, how to edit the sound for your videos, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Today's video, however, is simply about getting started, which is really hard sometimes. And believe me, I've been trying to make a YouTube channel for years. I would always sit down with a guitar and go, okay, it's going to be about covers, or no, that's not good enough, or the lighting's not good enough, or the angle's not good enough, and there's always some reason why it's not good enough. But the reality is, at the beginning, nobody cares. The only person who cares is you, and nobody's going to see it. So just getting started is the most important aspect of progress. The first thing I wanted to talk about is using the gear that you have already. It's super easy to think that you need the best camera or the best lens or the best equipment in order to make a really cool video, when that's not true. I bought a good camera back in lockdown because I thought that's exactly what I needed for YouTube creation. And to be honest, having a good camera when I didn't have the ideas held me back so much, because I knew I had this potential with this camera that I wasn't able to get because I didn't have the skills already. Whereas now, 3 years later, I know how to use the camera and to get the best out of it, but I didn't need it in the first place. And I know people say this all the time, but if you just have an iPhone or Android, Android, the camera on these is brilliant and you can make it look really good. And I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm going to explain to you why you don't need an amazing camera to start off with, and I'm going to show you how you can use your iPhone to make amazing footage. We're going to be taking this footage shot on an iPhone 14 to this in a few simple steps using color grading within DaVinci Resolve. This is a good friend of mine called Isaac Levi. We shot this in my studio. He's a great guy, really great artist. You should definitely go and check him out. Let's go over how we got this shot in the first place. The first step is the key light. The key light is the light that's casting all the light on the side of Isaac's face here and creating all the mood and the dynamic energy. This is a lamp in the corner which is creating some depth as well. As you can see here, we've got the key light showing on the side of his face there, and then in contrast with the depth of the lamp behind him. Let's get into how we made this on the iPhone itself. So we went to cinematic mode. We held down on Isaac's face, starting the autofocus lock so it's not jumping all over the place. We had to play around with the exposure. I think on this one we just left it at 0. And then we changed the f-stop, so the aperture, just to increase or decrease the amount of blur in the foreground on the background. In this case, it's just the foreground that's being blurred. And I think that is exactly what we kept. So the next step comes in the color grading, which is what we're going to go to now. So here we are in the color page of Resolve. If you're not using Resolve, you might not be able to see this particular node tree or this node tree space, but you can still do this same process in Final Cut or Premiere, whatever you're using. I just like Resolve because you can get really detailed and organized with these nodes. So for the purpose of this grade, I'm going to leave everything as is already, because I've already graded the footage and I've already shown you what the final product looks like. So I'm just going to be breaking it down node by node of what I've already done. So I'm going to take all of these that I've already done. I'm going to hit Command and D. That's just going to disable them temporarily. And this is the footage we're left with there. First thing we're going to want to do in Resolve is we want to right click on this empty space here, which is how you'll find it when you first go into the color page. Add a corrector. So this is going to be where we're going to be placing our individual node grades. So we can link it from the source here to this little green triangle, and then the back end all the way to the end there. I'm going to get rid of that because I already have my first node. We're going to enable this one, and this is getting our footage in the right color space. So it was filmed on an iPhone 14 Pro, so that we can see in the Finder, if we right click and say Get Info, we can see what color space it was recorded in, which was Rec 2020. And now you'll see that everything is kind of a bit pink. The colors are popping out really nicely apart from the skin tones, but we're going to get to that. We're going to transform our color space into Rec 709 and Gamma 2.4. The rest of our grade and the rest of this timeline, and we're going to transform it at the end, but we're going to get to that. First thing we want to do is balanced the footage. So if I enable this, you're going to see that it just looks a lot more cleaned up the footage. As you can see in the scopes down here, a lot of our blacks are no longer being crushed, although they are compressed because of the footage. It was done on an iPhone, so we're not going to be expecting huge amounts of information in the top end and the bottom end. So I'm going to show you how we did this. So we went into our curves here, and we had a little look. We kept an eye on this graph here, and we brought, I'm just going to reset this so you can see. We brought down the highlights at the top here to about there, and we just brought up the blacks a little bit. And around here as well, we just took a little bit more of that out. And again, just to bring down some of the brightness at the top there. Also, what we did is we just added a tiny little bump of contrast and just a pivot there, just to balance out some of the lows and the highs. Our keying is just where we're going to be selecting and qualifying certain colors to grade them individually. So the first thing I did was added another parallel node where we're connecting it this way, in the same way as before. I'm going to activate that. I'm going to show you what it's doing. So if we zoom in on Isaac's face here, we can see now the skin colors have been neutralized and kind of balanced a bit. So I'm going to show you how we did that. We're going to go into our qualifier tool down here. We're going to be HSL, hue, saturation, luminance, how we're going to qualify the colors we want to grade. So if I click this button here, this is our highlight tool. It shows us exactly what we're selecting. You can see now that we've selected the skin tones, and all you're going to do with this is you want to click on the skin tones. I'm not going to do it already because I'm going to ruin my selection, but you're going to see anything in the color range that you have selected is going to be showing up on this highlight area. And you can adjust with the saturation, hue and luminance just to make sure you get as much of the skin and as little as the rest of the image as possible. So in doing this, we've dropped the temperature a little bit, taken out some of the magenta, so we've put it towards green a little bit more, and we've also just done a couple of notches here in the gamma, which is where all of our skin tones are always going to sit. No matter what tone of skin you have, it's always going to sit in the gamma range. So we've knocked out a little bit of the blue and just boosted the red in a really, really small way. And that is then giving us this, as you can see, very pinky, a lot of magenta, and now that's looking a lot better. We then qualified the leaves in the same way, so I'm going to show you that now. Brought out a lot of this lovely green that's really popping out in the image now. And in Resolve, they have a face refinement feature, and not that Isaac needs any help. Look at him, he's a good looking lad. But I added this just for the features of the mid-tone and contrast, and just some kind of shine removal, desaturation of the shadows. So this is a really, really useful tool when you just want to go in and refine just a little bit more. So when you go in, you're going to want to hit analyze, and that's going to go through your footage and it's going to analyze what is a face and what's not. So I'm going to show you before and after. Again, it's just popping out some of the mid-tones in his skin, and it's making it stand out in the footage. And then the last thing I did was I just qualified the colors of the guitar here and just popped out those tones there as well. So before, after. So now we just got everything popping out in the right places. We're going to go on to our look, and it's a very, very subtle look. All it's doing is taking out some more of the highlights, just dropping the temperature very, very slightly. So this is affecting the entire image. We're not doing any keying here. This is all going into this mixer node, and we are adjusting the whole image. We've bumped the contrast a tiny little bit, and also we've just played around with some of the blues here. So we've bumped the blues in the upper range here and also just dragged it down there, and that's creating a little bit of a color look as well. So let's move on to our next node, which is sharpening, which is very, very subtle. We're going to open this window here, the blur, and we're just going to grab this radius. So we just want to take it down a few notches just to get a little bit of sharpening out of the image. So what I like to do after this, just to make it a little bit more cinematic and focusing on the subject, is we're adding a vignette. So as you can see there, it's very, very subtle, just a tiny bit coming off the corners of the image. And how we do this is we go into this power window here, and we add a circular window, and we can just adjust this like so, and take it over to the color wheels, and we can just drag out some of the offset or even the gamma, whatever you like really, just to bring down the brightness of those areas. And if it's too strong of a look, you can just head over to this keying window, and we can just adjust how much of this effect we want in. So I had it around 0.8. So now we're going to be going into this final part of the image here, which is this compound node that I've created here, and I'm going to go into it now. I'm going to show you what it's doing. So let's just activate it before we go in. So Command D and show compound node. So the first thing, I'm going to disable these two. So what we're doing here is we're taking another color space transform onto this node. We're still accepting our Rec 709 Gamma 2.4, but our output gamma is going to be a Cineon film log, which is then being driven into another node where we've placed a film LUT on there. So we've gone into our film looks and added the Rec 709 Kodak 2383 D60. And then after this, we've added another color space transform, accepting our Rec 709 Cineon film log back into Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. And that's creating this lovely look on here. So to create a compound node out of these two, we just simply highlight them and hit create compound node, and that will create something that looks exactly like this. Final piece of the puzzle is we're going to add a grain. So I've added a 33mm 400T overlay, messed around with the texture a little bit, and that's creating this final image. So let's go from before and after. I mean, the difference is just night and day. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'm going to be posting lots of tips and content ideas for musicians and how to get the best out of your footage. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.